Allie Blakeman is told to write a career-changing article about a classic Christmas movie. She meets Brad and his family in the small town where it was shot and unravels a lot of mysteries. In a Christmas movie, Jack's car breaks down in front of Betsy in the small town of Haven Falls. He asks for a phone, and if Betsy can take him to the church. Betsy jests about men taking her to dinner first. Jack needs to write the jingle of the season in a week, so he offers to take her to the movies if she shows him the chapel. He also gets friendly with her pig Penelope. Allie has candy for Christmas, which she feels is the best part. She has no interest in the mushy and feel-good stuff. She has prepared a different kind of holiday pitch, which is newsworthy, and hopes the boss, Dennis, will like it. Her friend and colleague, Jen, pitches holiday hot yoga as her story. Dennis likes the idea and asks Allie for her pitch in travel and entertainment. Allie discusses medical advancements using ultraviolet light by scientists. Dennis wonders if this light is in any way connected to Christmas. Since it's not, he dismisses the meeting and asks Allie to hang back. Dennis feels Allie is perfectly suited for the entertainment section at the Sentinel, but she keeps wanting to join the news team. Her dream is to win Pulitzers by reporting breakthrough content. Dennis reminds her she already has loyal readers. He still decides to transfer her to the news team if she can cover a story he wants. It's the 65th anniversary of the classic movie, Christmas with You. He wants her to go to White Falls, New York, where it was filmed and premiered in a local theater. He feels it's a holiday classic and his wife's favorite. Allie is irritated with the theme song, but agrees to give him the best article possible on it. Allie is determined to get a real story out of this so Dennis can see her potential. Jen suggests interviewing the lead actor of the movie, Walter Andrews, who lives in the Hamptons. Allie calls his publicist, but she gets rejected because Walter hates the press. He apparently wouldn't talk to her even if Santa asked him to. He has a sense of humor. Allie arrives in White Falls and asks a local, Joyce, for directions to the inn. Allie has read about a tour of the locations where the movie was filmed. Joyce doesn't know if they still hold tours, but asks Allie to check out the Westdale Theater, where the movie premiered. Allie startles Brad, one of the owners of Westdale, while he's on top of a ladder. She explains that she's a journalist who wants some information about Christmas with You. Brad assures her she's at the right place and offers to give her a tour. He offers her Santa's popcorn, which has marshmallows instead of butter, along with some Christmas candies. Because of his great-grandfather, who was from France, his grandma, Margaret, had marshmallows with everything as a kid. That inspired the popcorn. Brad introduces Allie to Margaret, his sister Tracy, and his niece, Chloe. Christmas with You is Margaret's favorite movie, and she explains how the whole family works in the theater. Margaret and Tracy remember Brad's childhood in the theater, and how attached he was to it. Allie enjoys his embarrassing stories, but insists she needs more facts about the movie. Margaret offers to give out any information she needs. Brad takes Allie behind the curtains to the projector room, where he feels all the magic happens. Allie is amused by how passionate he is about the movie. He feels movies can transport people anywhere, but Allie feels the classics are unrealistic versions of life. Allie doesn't believe people break out into a song and dance under street lamps. Brad still feels if someone is confessing their love to the girl of their dreams, all of these things make sense. The street lamp scene was also shot right outside the theater. Allie also admits that was a sweet moment. Allie clarifies that she's looking for a factual story, but Brad feels the movie is the story. He has seen so many people of different ages who bond over it. He insists that such movies make people believe everything is possible at Christmas. He asks her to imagine the moment lights lower, and people in the room take off on a journey, loving his enthusiasm. He thinks it also makes people believe that happy endings exist. Allie feels everyone is brought back to reality, but Brad thinks they get a renewed sense that magic is possible. Brad admits his happy ending would be for White Falls to reclaim its place in cinematic history. Margaret used to talk about the time the whole town celebrated the movie and Christmas. People still watch the movie, but not together. Brad has wanted to host a big screening for a long time. He jumped at the chance to celebrate the anniversary. This movie reminds Margaret of love, and Allie asks for permission to quote him. Brad allows it, and hopes her article might be the Christmas miracle they need. He even hopes Allie will be shouting from rooftops by the end of it. Let's see if that happens. Allie goes through all the props on display from the movie that Brad's grandparents were collecting. Brad has some job offers from the big city, but he wants to stay. He doesn't want to walk down the street if he doesn't know his neighbors like he does in White Falls. Brad explains that Margaret convinced the lead actor, Walter, to have the movie premiere at this theater. She used to work as a ticket collector then. The town later gifted the theater to his grandparents after the huge success. He claims his grandpa didn't mind Margaret chatting with someone like Walter, who was a ladies' man. His grandparents were soulmates, and he feels their story is better than what they see in the movies. Allie finds an original music sheet for a song that Walter wrote while filming in White Falls. She ends up breaking the frame, but finds a note at the back from Walter. It's addressed to a woman whose name starts with the letter D. Walter mentions his intention of running away with D and giving up his movie star life for her. Brad has no idea who this could be, but Allie is excited about an origin story. She loves the idea of the most famous Christmas song being dedicated to a mystery woman. Allie knows Walter never married after filming this movie, and he was already divorced thrice. Allie feels like it's a great story waiting to be told. Margaret is taking Chloe to Santa when Allie and Brad interrupt them. They show her the sheet music. Margaret remembers Walter was friendly with many women, but has no idea who this person could be. Allie is desperate to solve the mystery and wants to question some locals. This story affects Brad too, so he offers help. Allie updates Dennis about the music sheet, and he likes the direction she's headed in. He asks her to make use of the 2 weeks she has to publish the story before Christmas Eve. Brad can't find anything about the D woman in his research. He wonders if it could be his co-star, Lana Murdoch, since he called her a doll. Allie knows Lana was pregnant during filming, and her husband was on location. There's no cast and crew list online, and the D names are mostly in post-production or accounting. Brad takes Allie to the pastry shop where Jack and Betsy, the lead characters of the movie, fall in love. Brad asks Mrs. Caldwell for help with any memories she might have. Mrs. Caldwell remembers that Lana was gorgeous, and Walter didn't make them feel like he was a huge star. She doesn't recall any romantic interest, since too many people were always around him. Brad asks her to get the famous gingerbread house building from the movie, so familiar settings can trigger her memory. Mrs. Caldwell starts remembering how Walter used to decorate these gingerbread houses. He even gave her candy when her mom wasn't looking. He even bought Christmas cookies for the entire crew. During the premiere, he secretly got a red velvet cake made with green and white frosting. He special ordered it, and Mrs. Caldwell feels it was a surprise for someone. Since he picked it up from the store, she thinks she can find some records her mom kept. Allie is impressed that Brad's strategy worked. Allie is still worried about having a sweet tooth and eating too much gingerbread. Her parents divorced when she was very young, so Christmas has always been about separation for her. She found her place in journalism and takes comfort in choosing facts over feelings. That explains her grinchiness. Mrs. Caldwell can't find anything on the cake, but has found a call sheet from the day the movie was shot there. Allie finds Debbie, Dolores, and Diana on the call sheet and thinks one of them must be the mystery woman. Brad feels the street lamp turning on that moment itself is a sign. He asks her to picture the iconic scene from the movie under the streetlight. In the movie, Betsy inspires him to write the greatest love song, and he sings it to her under the street lamp. Jack still has a fiancée back in New York, but Betsy makes him believe in love again. This is when he can't control his feelings and kisses her. Allie reminds him he left after this to get back to his fiancée in the city. Brad knows he is only obligated to go back to her, but Jack's heart always belonged with Betsy. Brad also feels the street lamp is a metaphor for the Christmas star bringing them together. Allie sets up an appointment with Debbie, the makeup artist from their list. Dolores has passed away, but Jen has her son's contact information. Diana Parker, the assistant location manager, is possibly a local without contact information currently. Jen loves that Allie is working on such an inspiring love story. Dating apps are giving Jen a hard time, and she's hoping for a romantic love like that, which makes her heart sing. Allie hates all the mushiness of the movie Love, and is frustrated she can't get Walter to talk to her. Allie is still looking forward to making some progress on the article with Brad. Jen has searched for Brad online and asks Allie to give in to the romance with him. Debbie is still doing makeup for her granddaughter's ballet recital. Debbie admits working on Christmas With You was a special time in her life. That was the only movie she did with Walter, and was very nervous. She remembers how Walter had a natural sex appeal and could outshine anyone. All the girls loved him, and all the men wanted to be him. She admits she didn't have any special connection with him, even if she wanted to. He was always sneaking off from set to meet someone, and she had to cover for him. He was very private and never mentioned who it was. But Debbie could see love in his eyes when he wrote the song for her. Tracy finds some stuff in the attic, but Margaret claims Walter never came to town after the premiere. They know he never married again, and he also continued working. They think Dee must have broken his heart because he was willing to leave everything for her. The plot of the movie was also somewhat based on his love story. When Chloe asks Brad to make some Christmas colors with her, Allie gets a call from Dolores' son. She seems disappointed, but loves that Brad is granting Chloe's wish with some Christmas lights. Allie has learned from Dolores' son that his parents met on set, and they were dancers. Walter also sent them a wedding present, so it doesn't seem like it was her. They still have Diana from the list, who has emailed Brad back. He has set up a meeting too. Allie thinks what Red and Chloe have is very sweet. He feels even adults should believe in the Christmas magic like kids do. Brad shows Allie the spot where they built the snowman in the movie. They put a matte painting on the wall to make it look like it happened in a field. It shows him that magic can be made anywhere, including the light show he made for Chloe with a chandelier. He feels these movies are important because they make dreams come to life. He knows Allie stopped dreaming a long time ago, but he thinks of himself as a guy who sees a farmer's field when it's not there. Allie is more of a girl who feels like her article is dissolving in the ice. He believes in happy endings and brings out a candy cane for her. He reminds her of the scene in the movie where Jack and Betsy drop their candy canes to form a heart. That was borrowed from a tradition in White Falls, where if two people form a heart, their wishes will come true. Allie tries to rationalize that too, and is sure they placed the candy canes that way in the movie. He still encourages Allie to try it out. He knows their wishes of solving this mystery will be granted. Brad brings Allie to a Christmas tree lighting but is upset because this event used to be bigger. He reminds her of the scene where Jack buys a candy cane. He admits it was filmed at the hardware store, so the tourists looking for it never found the candy shop. Allie gets distracted by Diana's call since she has invited her to meet at the event. He asks her to hold off till the tree lights. Allie tries to take a picture of the Westdales, but they ask her to join too. Allie meets Diana outside, who has never met Walter. She knows a bit about the song because her cousin was Walter's driver. She knows about the long walks he took at night. He was private, so her cousin didn't know about any girlfriends. But Diana knows Walter wants to be like everyone else and disappear in the crowd. She also knows that Walter signed his name on cement somewhere in White Falls. He told her cousin that he was leaving his heart behind there. Diana's cousin has passed away, and they never found where he signed his name. Allie still thanks Diana for possibly saving her story. Allie knows Walter might have signed his name with D. She thinks they can find some clues in the lyrics of the song. She remembers he mentioned glowing lights and asks Brad if there's any such place. He thinks the list will be short because the town wasn't so developed then. A waitress comes for their order, and Brad is sad they don't have Christmas with you burgers. That's almost cute. He feels it's a sign he should take a job in the city since the town is losing its touch. Allie can't picture White Falls without Brad. He just feels bad. Christmas isn't like the early days anymore. He knows if he can bring back that memory of good times, he will live much happier. He wonders how Allie ended up at the Sentinel. She explains how she has been trying to report real news. Allie admits she initially thought this story was about Christmas escapism. Now that she knows more, she realizes it's a real story about love and possibly heartbreak. She hopes it gets her to the news team. Brad is sure someone as determined as her will surely make it. Dennis reminds Allie that her article is due in a week. She hasn't found the mystery lady yet, but promises that her leads are good. Dennis has been bragging about her story to marketing, so he asks her to make it work. Oh great, more pressure. Stan at the hardware store struggles with tourists. Allie helps him by informing them that Jack bought candy cane from this store in the movie. Stan feels really grateful to Allie. Brad has done some research on a possible cement spot. He brings her to the room where Walter stayed while filming the movie. That hotel was the tallest building in town then, and they could see glowing lights from the balcony. He heard that the cement wasn't even dry the morning Walter checked in. The balcony was a late addition to the hotel. They start searching for Walter's sign there. They discuss how much men did for women back then. Brad compares everything to his grandparents, who just knew they were in love. His grandpa took Margaret on one date, and she wrote letters to him when he was deployed and waited for his return. They make him believe that it's tough to run away from a soulmate. They're unable to find the sign, so Brad asks her for popcorn to cheer her up. They wonder if Dee came to the premiere, and she knows Walter wrote a song for her. Allie feels it'll be easier if Walter just talks to her. Brad knows he's a recluse and wants to stay out of the limelight for a bit. Margaret loves the tree they're decorating, which reminds her of her late husband. They used to walk down the Christmas tree lane, which Christmas With You also borrowed. It was a tradition in White Falls where Christmas trees were set up in front of their theater. She remembers how beautiful the lights were and how they glowed at night. This makes Brad and Allie realize they need to check the roof of the theater. They find Walter's sign and learn that his love's name is Daisy. That seems more like a tight end. Jen has done some research but doesn't know of any Daisy who worked on the film. Allie feels they should put the word out on social media so they can find her. Allie decides to ask around till then. Stan thanks Allie for boosting his business with the movie Fun Fact. Allie asks Stan if he knows any Daisy in town in her 70s or 80s. Allie is trying to check the city registrar's office, but they're closed. Stan's mother, Elaine, works there, so he promises to help her out. Elaine helps Allie and feels that the girl Walter was in love with was very lucky. The song always makes her emotional. Allie asks Elaine about a transfer deed from Walter to Margaret. Allie thought the city gifted the theater to the Westdales after the premiere. The transfer deed is also much before that time. Elaine explains that the theater was always privately owned, so the city couldn't have gifted it. Now that's a good twist. Elaine shows her some photos from the opening night, when the name was changed to Westdale. It shows Martin and Daisy Westdale, who is actually Margaret. Elaine explains that Marguerite in French means Daisy, and it was always Margaret's nickname growing up. Allie asks Jen to call her back and tries to find Brad. Allie knows Brad still thinks his grandparents were soulmates and had a magical love story. She feels weird that a playboy like Walter is willing to give up Hollywood for Margaret. Allie remembers showing Margaret the note, but she didn't say anything. Allie knows Margaret obviously doesn't want her family to know about the affair. She feels it might be reciprocated in some way, since Margaret accepted the theater Walter gifted her. Allie knows this is a great story, but it will destroy Brad and his theater. Dennis overhears this conversation with Jen and congratulates Allie for getting to the bottom of the mystery. He asks Allie to publish it soon and agrees to transfer her to the news division. Brad feels disappointed he didn't realize Daisy was his grandma's nickname. He asks Allie to not publish the story, since it will be a huge scandal. Allie assures Brad that Margaret choosing Martin over a movie star means that their love was true. Brad doesn't want people to read about his grandma's life like it's gossip, so Allie suggests she will find another way. Brad calls her the next morning in a better mood. He wants to keep his grandma's past behind. He knows if she still loves this movie, he has no reason not to. He has printed the posters and is sure they'll get a full house for the screening. Brad feels weird listening to the famous song now that he knows it's dedicated to Margaret. He still accepts that it has brought joy to millions of people. He thanks Allie for sacrificing on behalf of his family and not mentioning his grandma's connection in her article. He asks her for a real dinner date that night. Dennis asks Allie for updates, but she insists she wants to make it more about the movie. Dennis makes her realize they have a huge story, and he will find another writer to publish the Daisy angle if she doesn't. Allie admits to Margaret that she knows all about her and Walter. Margaret also feels it's time the world knows about Walter's kind heart. She gives Allie permission to record as she describes how she met Walter for the first time. Margaret was 19 when Walter walked up to her when she was selling tickets. She didn't have any idea who he was, because she didn't expect a star like him in a small town. He liked that she didn't treat him differently, and they talked about books and life for hours. Before this, Margaret had only gone on one date with Martin before he was deployed. They weren't engaged back then, and she was honest with both the men about each other. Martin and Walter never asked her to choose between them. They knew she was her own woman. When Walter was filming in town, they met every day and sat up talking on the roof at night. Margaret knows she enjoyed his company till a photographer took their photo one day. The gossip tabloids referred to her as his flavor of the month. It changed things because people got too involved in their life. Margaret admits Walter wrote the song for her and wanted to give up everything. She didn't want him to sacrifice that much because she knew the world loved watching him perform. Margaret admits she loved him and feels they could be together in another lifetime. She admits her heart was Martin's, and she knew it when he returned. Walter understood this, so he gifted the theater as a Christmas present to her and Martin. Walter asked her to think of him every time their song played, and she did. She changed her name to Margaret and left Daisy behind in the past. She has no regrets because she loved them both. She asks Allie to write this story as she has lived it. Allie gets to work, but Brad bumps into her and finds her notes. She tries to explain that she can't give this story to someone else, but Brad feels betrayed. He feels bad he believed in a happy ending with her. He wishes her luck with her career at the cost of destroying his family. Tracy understands that Margaret wants Allie to tell her story. She herself is impressed with Margaret's exciting life. Tracy is still worried because Brad is taking a job in the city after Christmas. She knows he belongs to the theater in White Falls. Allie wants to help and calls Jen to ask for a listing of every hotel in the Hamptons. Margaret thanks Brad for organizing such a great screening for her. She gives him Walter's hat from the movie. Margaret replaces the hat on display with the love note Walter wrote to her. She clarifies that she's accepting it because it was the best Christmas of her life. Martin returned to her, and the biggest movie star made her feel special. That is something. Tracy calls Brad for a candy emergency, so he drives with her to Joyce's store. Tracy doesn't let him in the car and asks him to walk back after he has read Allie's article. Brad starts reading it and finds Allie shouting at him from the rooftop of the theater. Wow, this really happened. Allie admits she never thought she would do this, but Brad has changed her. This movie has taken her to him, and she doesn't want to let a good thing get away. Walter then drives up to the theater and has a heartwarming reunion with Margaret. They begin the screening, but Brad walks out searching for Allie. She apologizes for following her gut and not respecting his wishes. She admits everything she said about her feelings is true. Brad admits he also got his wish when they dropped the candy canes. He kisses her and admits that Allie makes his heart sing. Allie explains that she can work from anywhere and wants to stick around in White Falls with him. Watching Daisy and Walter has also restored her faith in Christmas. They dance around right at the spot Jack and Betsy dance with each other and kiss when they do.